Hey guys, welcome into the Shadow Box. I am Carlise, your host, your grief and trauma coach, and your shadow work guide. Today with us, we have Cam Golden. Cam is visiting us from Georgia, and she has suffered a recent loss of her husband as recently as 2 years ago. So she's pretty fresh into this particular space. But today she's going to talk to us about how she's been navigating and just give us the truth in her experience at this time. Cam also has a book. She is an author. It is called I Juice Wellness by Cam. It is on Amazon. We will have that information for you in her bio after the podcast. So I'm going to hand it over to you, Cam, and just introduce yourself and let us know about you.
Okay, well, I am Cam Golden. I'm a 54-year-old mother of two. I am by profession, I am an enrolled agent and I work for a local tax attorney here in Georgia. And I retired from the Internal Revenue Service after 25 years as of May of last year. Um,
Congratulations.
yes, thank you. I'm the grandmother of one and dog mama to two.
Okay.
And I have really been working hard with figuring out exactly who I am
Mhm.
after the loss of my husband.
Yeah.
He was so much a part of everything.
And what's your husband's name?
His name's Steve Golden.
Steve? Okay. So
Yes.
let's go ahead and go into it and just tell us what happened. How did you come to this space?
Well, everything changed for me on November 23rd, 2023. And that particular year, that was Thanksgiving. My husband, with the profession that he had, he pretty much worked most holidays. And so he left, got up, kissed me goodbye, I love you, like normal. When I did wake up because I was off, I got up to get ready to start cooking. We were going to my mom's house and I just didn't feel right that morning. And I started trying to call him and I was texting and he wasn't responding. And I'm talking to myself and I'm like, he must have forgot to turn his phone back on, like
Yeah.
it was on silent. And so the morning went on by and I went to let our dog out in the back. And when I was coming back in, I was like, yeah, I'm just call the office and have them to go ahead and just get him on the radio. And when I did that, as soon as I came in the house, my doorbell was ringing. And I looked at the ring camera and I saw it was two Henry County police officers at my door. And I knew something had happened to him. And I went
Yeah.
out and I actually started questioning them, are you coming to tell me that something happened to my husband? And they were asking me questions and I was answering the questions. And then I remember they were asking me, they said, well, how are you related to him? Because I was like, my husband, Steve Golden. And I was like, he's my husband. Like, did you not hear me?
Right.
And they went into asking me who was home with me, which my daughter at the time, she was 18, just in college, my youngest daughter, she was here. But, as a mom, we try to shield them. Like, I didn't want her to be in that space with me. So ultimately, I ended up having my neighbor to come over. And my neighbor came over. And once she came over, that's when they went into, Miss Golden, we're sorry to inform you that your husband was killed in the car accident because I knew it had been an accident that day. It shut down the interstate by our house, but I
Okay.
just assumed he had already got to work
Yeah.
and wasn't caught up in it.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much when everything just changed. It's like literally my world stopped. I felt like I had a out of body experience being that I was looking at myself sitting on the porch, like listening to them say this to me. I feel like my body was going into some type of protection mode and everything
Mhm.
was just numb.
Yeah. And that's usually what happens is your body does go into a protection mode because it's hitting it has an experience that it hasn't experienced yet. And so it
Yes.
goes into that fight and flight, that fight or flight mode, and it's it's a preparation. It feels like it's a preparation. It feels like it's a coping mechanism, a quick coping mechanism to keep you in your right mind, right?
Yes, yes.
Um, okay, and so how frustrating. I always find this interesting because this is not the first time I've heard like how the police come to the door and then they go about telling you about your loved one. And how frustrating was it for them to come and not just give you the information? I mean, because that's what you're needing, but you had to call your
Yeah.
neighbor and then you had to go through that process. What did that do?
It was very frustrating for me. Because it was like, just tell me. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? Like I had already been agonizing, knowing something was off because we were so in sync. Like I literally didn't feel like he was with me, but I'm trying to talk myself out of thinking the worst. And
Mm,
then, it's like I felt like you're not listening to me because when they came, I started asking questions of them. And so I threw them off of their script. Pretty
yeah.
much. That's what it felt like. I threw them off of their script. And at some point, I felt like they were trying to find holes in my story so that they didn't have to break my heart.
Mm, like if you already knew or something
Yeah,
of
it's
that
like
nature.
like they knew after I had said so much, they knew this is this lady's husband, this is this lady's something, and they
Yeah.
were like trying to find holes in my story to not have to tell me what they were there to tell me. Yeah,
Yeah.
I threw them off. It's like I knocked them off of their feet.
Yeah. And it's, the formality of it, right? Because they're just coming to do their job, even though for you it's a whole world shatter. But they have I guess, a process that
Yes, yes,
can can kind of just feel inhuman sometimes, when they go about it that
yeah.
way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's kind of like I felt like I broke a layer down, and that side they were supposed to be very stoic, I got in there, and they were trying to recover, and
Mm,
it was just, they were human. They were humanized in that moment.
yeah. Good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
You said something really interesting that kind of struck a light bulb in me. You said that you felt like your husband was no longer with you just in that
Yeah.
moment. What did that feel like? Can you explain that to me?
Um, I always felt like this sense of closeness, just this feeling that he was still somewhere in the world, but I felt this emptiness. I just felt like something's really off. He's not with me. I wasn't settled. I was unsettled. So
Mhm.
I didn't feel that same peace. Like I knew before he rolled it out of his mouth, I knew because it nothing about that day went like a normal day. It
Yeah.
just did not feel right.
Yeah. Did your husband act any particular way to the days leading up to it or that morning? Was anything off with him?
No, nothing was off. I think about like the last day, our last ordinary day, which was the day before. Um, I got home a little bit later than him, but we had this thing where we have the shower and then the bathtub. I'm a bathtub person. He's a shower person. So
Mhm.
normally he would be in the shower, I'm in the bathtub, and we're just talking about whatever about the day. And we
Mhm.
were talking, but I like to soak. So I'm soaking, and when I get out, he's already asleep. Now, normally, I would be like, hey, Steve, such, are you asleep? And he'll be like, no, my love, I'm not asleep. What is it?
Yeah.
But
Mhm.
he was looking so peaceful when I came in. I remember saying to myself, you know what? Just let him sleep because tomorrow is going to be a light day because all the people are not going to be in the building and we're pretty much just going to talk. We're going to
Yeah.
talk. And so I just kind of just brushed it off. But like even in that, that was a different thing for me because normally I would have, that was our thing. He would have still answered me even though he was asleep.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, okay. So give us a little bit of your backstory. Tell us about Steve. What made him so special? How did he capture your heart?
The thing about him that captured my heart was with him, I always felt safe. I never had to be anything or anybody other than myself. So with all of my imperfections and my quirky ways, he loved me no matter what. I feel like just because I was so indifferent, it's
Mhm.
like he loved me more because of that. And I had never been in a relationship where you didn't have to change or pivot for somebody else.
Yeah,
It was okay just to be me, the imperfect me.
yeah,
One thing that I always say is that we were perfectly imperfect for one another. It's
mhm,
like for someone to truly know you and to truly see you, and guess what? I still want to keep seeing you. I still want to keep showing up. I still want to keep loving you despite these imperfections. There's no perfect love story, just as there's no perfect relationship, but just being able to stay in it, to talk through it, and to know that no matter what, you ain't giving up on me and I'm not giving up on you. And
yeah,
that was really different. That's the first relationship, the only relationship that I've had that felt that way. Like he truly felt like home for me.
yeah. I love that. That's really beautiful. And as you were talking, that aspect of you're not going to give up on me and I'm not going to give up on you. That within itself is kind of a blow at this time because now one is living without the other. And now one's life is upside down and there's shifts happening. And not that either of you gave up, time was just up, right?
Yes.
So,
Yes.
how are you, and I know this is still fresh, how are you starting to navigate that? Are you feeling like you're giving up? Do you feel like you're just learning how to move a different way? What is that like for you?
What I'd like to say is I am creating a new blueprint for my life. Steve was such a part of everything for so long. We had been married for 6 years, but we were together for like 15. So
Okay.
it's like he was just a factor in everything. And I had to relearn me, the kids, the youngest one, which those were his stepchildren, but he had been with me since Sydney was like 2.
Okay.
So she was in her first year of college. The oldest had already moved out. And so it was just he and I, empty nesters, as they would say.
Yeah.
But my routine has always included him in some way. And
Mhm.
so now he's not here. Um, Nobody asked me if I was ready for this change. It's just due to negligence, this is where I am. And now I have to adjust and I have to figure my life out. And it was hard because I wanted to stay in certain spaces that felt comfortable and
Yeah.
made me feel close to him. Um, but I got to a point where I realized that I couldn't do it by myself. Like literally, I knew I was going to crash and burn.
Yeah.
And I had the forethought to reach out to my primary care doctor at that time because I wasn't sleeping, I wasn't eating, I wasn't nothing.
Yeah.
And she told me she wanted me to get into therapy, and I did. I got into therapy like a week after he passed away. She had prescribed me antidepressants, and she prescribed me Ambien to help me sleep
Mhm.
at night. And I remember thinking like, this is just gonna. I just need this to help me to get through this. Like I felt like this was just a hump.
Huh. Yeah.
But here it is, it's 2 years. I'm a little over 2 years in, and I'm still on the medication. I'm still in therapy. I go to therapy every week. Like, um, I don't see an end in sight.
Yeah.
I will say that these are necessary things for me right now. Um, I feel that as I am moving forward, trying to rediscover and figure out who I am, um, when I tell you it's been a journey, like I've literally pulled back the layers. So it's like, who is Cam? Not the mama, not the wife, not the daughter, not the sister. Like, who am I. And one thing that I came to discover yesterday in my therapy is that I'm still me. It's
Mhm.
just I allow my different hats or my different roles to shine a little bit brighter than me.
Yeah.
And now I don't have any of those things. I'm forever a mom, but
Mhm.
they're spreading their wings and, kind of flying away now. But in terms of like my day to day with Steve, it's just finding my way and understanding that it's okay to change things. To change things that were routine or habit for us doesn't lessen the love that we had. It doesn't erase the history that we
Right.
had. I can move forward and still love my husband and still, be in a space where that's not forgotten because the person that I am today is because he loved me. And it's because he died in the way that he did because I have been really working hard to stay afloat. You know what I'm saying? I tell
Yeah.
people like, when it comes to financial things, well, that's easy. You can get a part-time job, you could do whatever to meet that deficiency. But when it's emotional stuff like this, it is very difficult because if it was just one thing, Steve died. Okay, great. But I have things that are still going on in terms of his death. Like there is someone that's being charged with vehicular homicide. So, when you have these attorneys, this is their job, right?
Right.
And they know I have a life, but they don't say, okay, let me check in on Miss Golden and see what's on her agenda. No, if I come up on their schedule and they need something that they need to call, they're going to call, but they don't realize that that day was just a bad day for me because of other stuff. So they
Yeah.
come and that piles on. So I've had to learn balance. I've had to learn to prioritize myself and to not feel guilty about that.
Yeah.
I had to learn to pretty much prioritize everything, even when it comes to my family, and even to just be able to say, you know what, I'm not okay today.
Yeah.
I can't, I don't have the bandwidth for that today. Can we deal with this at another time? So I've had to learn to be able to express myself with people when I've always felt like I've always been a very direct person.
Hmm.
But sometimes I believe when going through grief, you just kind of silent because it's easier just to sit and not say anything and just like, please go away, leave me alone. But sometimes that would kind of backfire. So I've learned to be able to articulate what it is that I need and what I don't need and what I can't handle right now. So it's kind of
Yeah.
like teaching people how to communicate with me
Yeah.
because I'm not the same. Yeah.
Yeah. And creating those boundaries. That's really what you're saying is all about the boundaries. And it's okay that you are in your own world right now. It's
Mhm.
okay that you're trying to figure out what your world looks like.
Mhm.
And a lot of the times with grief, it exposes you to yourself, right? So what I
Yes.
heard you saying is that, my identities were caught up within me being a wife, within me being a mother, and just living this life as a family. That's all my identity was. And so now when grief hits, it kind of like exposes you and opens you up, and you're like, okay, well, where am I? Who am I
Yes.
before then? Before I became a mother and a wife, who was I, as a child, who what like all of who you truly are starts to come out. And that's something
Yes.
that you have to face, right? Um,
Mhm.
what would you say that in these moments of you starting to kind of peel back the onion and unfold who you are, what has been exposed within you about you?
People used to always say that I was strong in different aspects, whether it was in my professional life, that word strong was always a descriptive word of me. And there's parts of me that I really bought into it at that time. But after going through this, I am not strong. Like, what does that really mean? It caused me
Yeah.
like, what does that really mean? Um, it's not about strength in terms of physical strength, but inner strength. Am I really strong, or am I faking it? Or am I just kind of pushing myself through? Like, what does that really mean? And I will tell you, it was a period of time where I was like, yeah, everybody got this thing wrong. I am not strong. I am just trying to deal with what I got. I'm not strong. And I would tell people like, no, I'm not strong. Quit saying that.
Hmm.
A couple weeks ago in therapy, my therapist has me doing exercises, and I came back and I was like, I am strong. You know, I've grown even from the year. Every day is not a good day, and that's okay.
Yeah.
I give myself grace, but I am strong. Um, I am strong. I am
Yeah.
strong. I feel it in everything that I do. Um, yeah, and not strong because society says that I'm strong, or the old cliche, I come from a long line of strong women.
Yeah.
Not even that. It is the steps in the movement that I am making as a woman, as an individual,
Yeah.
independently. Yes, I am strong.
Yeah, I love that. And
Mhm.
strength is not, like you said, it's not about it's not physical strength. Sometimes it's not
Right.
even mental strength. Sometimes
Hmm.
it's just knowing that you have a limit. And when you know
Yes.
that you have a limit, you have a space that you can work out of. And in that space, you have certain parts of strength. And
Yes.
I think that, I love how there's no how you question the definition of strength, because it's
Hmm.
day by day. Just because you cry one day and you can get up and go walk the other day doesn't mean that you're not strong, doesn't mean that you're stronger than the other day. It just means that this day I'm a little bit optimistic. This day I have a little bit more energy. This day I feel like I can see myself, and want to
Yes.
live. And it's like this whole it's a ride, right?
Yes. 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 It does thing agree. It is like riding the waves,
Yeah.
literally. It
Yeah.
is. Yeah.
And sometimes you just have to release yourself, right? And that's kind of
Yes.
like that float. And that takes
Hmm.
strength to do, because what do we want to do?
Yes.
Control it, start wailing
Mhm.
around, start doing all the things. But when you let go, that is also considered strength. Yeah.
Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes.
Awesome. So tell me, how has this kind of affected the way that you show up for your children?
Well, I've always been a very hands-on mom. That mom that I'm gonna show up for everything. Um, that was always important to me. This is one of the first times in my life that I wasn't able to be a mom. I
Mhm.
wasn't able to pour into my kids the way I always had. My youngest had just started at Tuskegee, and she was on a scholarship. And you can be a stellar student in high school, but when you get in that bigger arena, it can be different and hard to adjust. And I remember I had this plan, like, I'm not gonna let her fail. I'm gonna keep checking in because so many things she's away from
Yeah.
home.
Hmm.
But that happened like Thanksgiving break, and I just couldn't. I couldn't check in with her. I couldn't. What do you have going on? Like, I couldn't tell her what I needed her to do. I remember her coming to me saying, "Mama, I reached out to my professors, and I reached out to the dean, and I told them that I'm not coming back to school until next year, because they would come for Thanksgiving, they would go back a couple weeks, and then come back for
Right.
Christmas."
Hmm.
She made that decision. I didn't even, she told me. I didn't give input or anything. I was just not able to participate as a parent. I was literally, the roles truly had shifted where they
Hmm.
were taking care of me because I just went numb to everything. I was doing the things that I needed to do in terms of preparing for his funeral, doing those things. But I had just got talked out. It was like, nobody could do the things that I needed to have done but me. I couldn't defer. When it comes to legal stuff, I am his legal next of kin. Like, I couldn't get nobody to sign with me. Somebody could come with me, but I still got to talk. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so my kids were like being a buffer for the things that I really didn't have to deal with, or they didn't want me to deal with, or they felt like I didn't need to deal with. They would just kind of handle that. So it's like they became my protectors.
Yeah.
They became my protectors. Yeah.
Yeah. And now 2 years later, are you able to recognize, even in retrospect, but also currently, how they also experience their own grief with his loss?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's a hard thing because they're adults. And
Yeah.
so I can advise and I can suggest, but ultimately they have to make the steps. And my children, their father, my ex-husband, he passed away in
Mm.
2016, just went to sleep and didn't wake up. So
Wow.
they lost their biological father, and now they lost their stepfather who was very close with them. And so as a daughter myself, it's like they won't have that dad to walk them down the aisle. Any of those moments where, daddy always front and center with the camcorder, like literally that totally has went away. You know,
Yeah.
um, Even if God sees fit that I remarry again, they won't have that relationship with that person like that because
Yeah.
they're not in the house with me. Steve was an extension of their father. So I think about that a lot. And I have encouraged them. My oldest daughter is in therapy. She
Okay.
believes in it heavily, such as I do. Sydney, she won't go, but I've noticed things, and I'll say, you got to get yourself in therapy, because one thing is like she gets overly emotional, and next thing I know, she'll be crying like I ran over a possum, and she's just boohoo crying, and
Mm.
I know what the signs are. And then she's an excellent student. So she does everything. She's very active. She volunteers. But I know what that is in terms of
Yeah.
you're doing all these things because now you don't have to deal with this.
Mm.
And, as a mom, again, all I could do is advise. And I sit back
Yeah.
and I pray a lot. You know what I'm saying? And I try to be present. So if I see something, I don't push it to the side. I'll say something, even though I can't make her do it, but it's in the back of her mind that, okay, my mama said this, so she can see that. You know what I'm saying? So I
Yeah.
just try to move where she knows that I'm still here. Like, you ain't out here by yourself.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
I may not be able to save her, but I won't allow her to crash and burn.
Yeah, just keeping her aware. And that's one of
Yes.
those things that grief does too. Or just, because not only are they experiencing grief, but they're also experiencing shifts within their own life, becoming the women that they're supposed to become and having all these experiences. So everything is just kind of coming together, kind of happening all at one time, so to speak. So
Mhm.
bringing those things to her awareness so that at least if she's missing the buck somewhere, she knows that I have to pick this up. Someone else is
Yes.
watching this. And I think when I was hearing you talk about how the roles changed, at that point it's like, aren't you so glad that you raised the children that you raised, that they were able to pick up that slack and say, hey, my mom needs me,
Yes.
I can do this. That has to be a proud moment in retrospect as a mom.
Yes. And then also for me, I had to learn through therapy to trust them because the
Mhm.
mom in me still wanted to protect them. So, certain things that I might have been experiencing or going through, I was truly here all alone in it
Yeah.
because, Steve was my safe space. So, like, if it was something going on, you know how you sometimes you're like, well, you know what, let's wait and see if it's something we need to tell.
Yeah.
So, me
Yeah.
and him would be here and we would sit with that. Well, he was gone and I didn't have that. So I had to learn that I raised two resilient young women and
Yeah.
I have to trust them because I've never portrayed my life as perfect. and they know it's bumps in the road, I got to trust them enough to share everything,
Yeah.
because again, from their perspective, I am the only parent that they have. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? So I gotta trust them more. And so now, people say, oh, that's my bestie. I'm not going to step out there and say that's my bestie because I'm still a mama first. But I
Yeah.
will say that our relationships have actually changed and shifted in a good way. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? So I allow them to be that support for me. If I needed to have a procedure done, I'm not trying to keep it from them. I bring it to them. I allow them to be a part of that so that they know what's going on. They're not blindsided by anything. I am respecting the adults that they are.
Yeah. And I like how you said that because respecting the adults that they are, however, when we are as parents, we have this, we do live life and do life with our children as the instructor, as the teacher,
Yes.
as the model, even, right? And so as they get older and these sorts of experiences start to happen, as they get older, now it shifts. You're still the model, but you're showing them what it looks like to do real life without
Yes.
you one day, life in their own experiences when they are when they're out there by themselves. Right now
Yes.
they're not by themselves, but at we have to be realistic as parents and say, hey, I'm not
Mhm.
always going to be here, and I need you to be able to move in a certain direction, because I've modeled real life to you. I've modeled what it looks like to be a widow. I've modeled what it looks like to grieve, to be sad, to cry, to be confused, and our children need to see that in a healthy way, for the most
Yes.
part. We all make mistakes as parents, but for the most part, a healthy way so that they can know, oh, this is normal.
Right.
Um, right, because I've talked to a few people in these interviews. I've talked to a few people where they're just like, no one told me. No one told me, what was going on or explained to me what was going on, or I didn't see X, Y, and Z. And now they're just kind of up in the air, just lost and feeling more depleted than they should had somebody just talk to them.
And one thing, um, in African American families, I don't know why we keep secrets and why we don't speak on things. You remember, my mom used to always say, "Don't be telling what's going on in my house."
Yeah.
I don't think it's about that, but I think it's just um, owning whatever that truth is. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm sure our ancestors didn't realize that what is it, ancestry.com and things like
Yeah.
that. So whereas you thought
Yeah.
something was a secret and now it's not a secret, but then you're not even here to explain. And
Yeah.
so we have a lot of broken individuals,
Yeah.
so when you think about it, what was the worst thing that could have happened if you told your truth then? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so I think about that.
Yeah, and that's a great point because what would have happened if you told your truth? Would you be ostracized? And if
Right.
you're going to be ostracized, then that may not be the tribe that you needed to be in anyway. And a lot of people, just because you're born into a family, a lot of people will tell you, especially in African American families, that sometimes you find your family outside of your family because there's a lot of
Mhm.
family dysfunction, that
Mhm.
is going on. There's a lot of not having the conversation surrounding death, not having the conversation surrounding violence, not having the conversation surrounding lack, even if you are still struggling yourself. Be the person enough, showing up as the person enough to say, hey, I can't tell you X, Y, and Z, but
Mhm.
I want you to go find it. I want you to have
Yes.
this resource, right?
Yes. Yes.
um
Yes.
so I love that you brought that up. And
Yes.
even too, that you and your daughter are in therapy, because that's another stigma that happens
Mhm.
a lot of the times. It's like, okay, this happened, we're just going to sweep it under the rug. We're tough, we're resilient, we're strong Black women, we
Mhm.
can do this.
Mhm.
And it's like
Right.
everyone's
Yeah.
suffering, right?
That's just a bad cliche phase, as far as I'm
Definitely.
concerned. You know, I don't see that I would have been able to make it to the point that I am without therapy, without the medication intervention, and also without renewing my relationship with God.
Mm,
Because you do ask, okay, God, why? You know what I'm
yeah.
saying? Um, but I knew that I needed to be in church, and not that I didn't have a belief in God. I did, but it didn't have the same priority
Yeah.
that it does now. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
I would like to say I'm older and I'm wiser, but I'm gonna say that I've been through things. Life has lifed me, you know.
Yeah.
And it's like when you can't answer or figure out anything, they say give it to God. I truly
Mm,
had to learn to give it to God, not say the words,
yeah.
but give it to Him and trust it.
Yeah.
And
Because
that's
what else
where
can you
I'm
do?
at.
Right? I
Exactly.
mean, you find yourself in a space where you can't move left to right. You're in a corner. You can't breathe. You can't talk. You can't. So, what do you have to lose? Whether or not you
Exactly.
believe it or it's close or not. So,
Hmm.
yeah, it'll definitely bring a person out of themselves and out of their ego and say, I need
Yes.
help. I need
Yes.
help. And so going into this, this is perfect to go into your support system. So, what
Hmm.
did your support system look like in the beginning? What does it look like now?
In the beginning, of course, everyone is, I'm here for you. I'm sorry for your loss. Everybody's calling, everybody's checking in, everybody's, texting. I would say that I had what do I want to say? Uh, inclusive group of friends.
Okay.
And I would have been like, yeah, those my down with two flat tire friends. And but what I can tell you is my circle has gotten smaller. Um, God has allowed me to see that everybody that had a seat at my table did not deserve a seat at my
Yeah.
table, and that it was necessary to remove certain people from my table and to be okay with that. Um, that even people that were friends and had known me forever, God allowed me to see different things with them, where it's like, I don't need to say, okay, we're not friends no more. I don't need to have this big announcement, but
Mm,
I need to put you up on a shelf over there.
yeah.
Because again, I'm reprioritizing things in my life, and I am the center point of
Yeah.
that. So now it is my immediate family. I have a couple of friends that I call my family. They're family by choice, not by DNA.
Right.
And then, of course, I have my church family as well. But even with that, you have to have boundaries with church.
Hmm.
Um, and then I have my therapy that I do. And but my kids are probably like that. They're right there, that
That
nexus for
anchor.
me. Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. They're the anchor for me. And just doing things in my own time. Grief is that thing that there's no time frame on grief. Um, there's no race to be won.
Hmm.
I'm doing it at my own pace. I give myself grace, if I want to cry, I cry. If I want to scream, I scream. Whatever it is, I allow myself to be that. And one big thing is it's okay to just sit in it. I don't have to push through. It's
Yeah.
okay to just sit in it, because sometimes you need to sit in what that feels. Because if we just keep pushing through, you don't know what it feels like. So you're going to keep coming
Yeah.
back to it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so
Yeah.
I try to intentionally not, I just allow myself to be. And I'm quick to tell people I don't need anybody to fix me, because everybody wants to be a therapist without a license, and they feel like they know what's best for you. And
Yeah.
nobody really knows what's best for me, because you may have known me for 20, 30, 40 years, but I am not even the same person that I was on November 22nd of 2023. So
Yeah.
I'm still learning me. So,
Yeah.
Nobody can tell me what's best for me but me, actually.
Yeah. And I think that's an important part of saying, meet me where I am, right? Kind of like
Yes.
meet me
Yes.
where I am or leave me where I'm at, one of the two,
Mm,
because I can't,
yes.
I can't have you trying to drag me to something else that I'm not either ready for or that's no longer a part of my existence.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I, um, I appreciate that I appreciate how you've dealt with the secondary losses, because when we talk about the secondary losses, we're talking about the friends and the families that, once he was here, everything was all good because you were looking at life out of a different lens.
Hmm.
You didn't need people in a way that you need people now. And neediness
Yes.
is not a weakness. Neediness is a strength, right? That's saying I don't have it all together. And so knowing that there are certain people that you had to let go, certain people that have remained in your corner, that's a part of your own truth. That's a part of your own authenticity, that aspect of who am I now, that aspect of that identity shift that's going on. Now you have people that are around you for who you really are in an authentic space, right?
Yes. 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 And they're pouring into me. And it's kind of like an extension of what I said with Steve. They accept me exactly for who I am.
Yeah.
I'm 54 years old. Yeah, I'm not gonna change pretty much, and so
No.
you gotta accept me for who I am and the way that I am. And so that I need people who are very authentic when it comes to loving me.
Yeah. Do you love yourself in a different way than you did when Steve was here?
I would say yes. Of course, I have always loved myself, but
Mhm.
again, I would put him before me. I would put the kids before me. You know what I'm saying? So I was the secondary, versus now I am the primary.
Yeah.
And that thing that we say we always knew, you got to live each day to the fullest, and that next day is not promised. I knew that even when Steve was there, but it was just that naive part of me. I never thought that life would life me in the way that it did. And so
Yeah.
now I'm more like, I'm living my life with intention, and I'm living my life with purpose. Um, and I'm living it the way God wants me to. Am I
Mhm.
perfect? No, absolutely. I'm not perfect. But there are things that I want to do. There's things that I want to imprint upon the world. There are things that I want to be a part of my legacy. And
Yeah.
so, with that in mind, that is why I move the way that I move. And even with Steve, like, he died and his earthly body is no longer here, but there are
Mhm.
so many great things about him, the man, and I want that to be imprinted into the world. So I advocate a lot, in terms of, he was a veteran, so I've had recognitions for him with the state of Kentucky, which is where he was born. Um, they did a resolution for him. The House of Representatives here in Georgia, they did a House resolution for him, and acknowledged him on the House floor.
Mhm.
So make it a point to um, keep his legacy alive, to continue to tell his story, and also, the manner in which he passed away, there was negligence that was due in
Right.
regard to that. And it kind of opened my eyes to something that we see all the time when we're on the roads.
Yeah.
But I see myself possibly being a lobbyist at some point, because sometimes we get so caught up into the fact of making money with the 18 wheelers and different things that are on the road. We make human safety um, secondary, and sometimes not even secondary, but that's a last thought. And
Right.
so I don't want any other family, not just wife, but any other family, to be in the space that I'm in. So I'm really looking to advocate for making stricter laws. I say Georgia because Georgia is a main thoroughfare for trucks coming out of Florida.
Okay.
But I need this to be nationwide, because when you talk about the trucking industry, it is nationwide. They go from Florida all the way up to Oregon in an 18 wheeler. We just got to do things where we are making sure that the people, because who's going to win, a truck or a car? A car is always going to lose.
Yeah.
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 So I've
Definitely.
become an advocate for a lot of different things. I always say it's kind of like I want to sprinkle little pieces of gold, because my last name is Gold, little pieces of gold in the world, just so the world will always know that Steve was here and that Cam was here. I truly want to make the world a better place. And God always says that, we are supposed to be a blessing to someone. Now, of course, we can't just go here and give all our money and stuff to everybody,
Right.
but I do pick causes that I deem are worthy, based on what I want, what I would like to do. And so I make sure that I pour into things in that way, and I advocate. And that's another part of my kids seeing a different side of me. I was the PTO mom and all that stuff, but
Yeah.
like this, like with politics and stuff, like I usually be like, but now it's like the cause is bigger. The
Yeah.
cause is bigger. Yeah, because Steve died and I can't change that. Okay, now hopefully the camera come back. Okay, it came back up. Okay. So yeah, so Steve died, and that's a fact, but that's not the end of the story. The way I look at it is, it may be the end of a chapter, but it's not the end of a story. And to be very honest, I don't know how many chapters are in this book, because it's my book of life. But know, um yeah, I'm just gonna take it as it comes. I'm just living each day to the fullest, and making it where, if today is my last day, then guess what? This was a good day. I've done everything that I set out to do today, and that's what I can worry about next week. But today,
Today. Yeah.
I've done what I needed to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, speaking of purpose, a lot of the times when we lose people, it does propel you into your purpose. And so, like you
Yes.
said, going into being a lobbyist and just kind of being the advocate for people who have been in your position, and people, and to kind of prevent people from being in your position. And also going into it and knowing, we can't save the world, but if you can save two people, five people, a thousand people, that's going to be good, right? It's still that
Absolutely.
that aspect of what you just said. Today I've saved
Yes.
someone, right? And so
Yes.
I hear you. I hear a lot of keeping Steve's legacy going and making sure that
Mhm.
people remember him. And it makes me think of people who do, everyone who has lost someone dearly and close. A lot of
Mhm.
people go into the world of grief coaching, or just grief advocacy and things of that nature. And their world kind of starts to be formed and shaped around the person that they've lost, which
Mhm.
is understandable. When they are when we are, because I've experienced it, when we are trying to find our footing, trying to get our feet off the
Right.
ground, right? With that being said, what do you see you doing for you, for Cam, in your near future as you're rebuilding? What do you see coming from you for you?
Well, I'm strong about making the world a better place, and leaving my imprint on the world. And so, I want to be a bridge for whatever the need is.
Mhm.
So yes, advocacy has been that thing that I have really, really been thinking about. But I wrote a book, and the book started out because I was juicing when COVID happened,
Mhm.
and I was like, I'm just gonna share some of my recipes. And the book evolved into this creation where my spirituality came into it, my healing became a part of it, the body responses that you feel when you're drinking the juices. that comes from therapy. Like, what am I smelling? What is my,
Yeah.
describing. So there's a journaling aspect to it as well. And it's funny you mentioned about the grief counseling, because I kind of teased a little bit with myself about that. But for right now, I'm not saying it's not on the table,
Yeah.
but for right now, because I am still actively in my healing phase, I feel like I need to get through that before I could see anything past that. And then also, when other people share things with me from a grief standpoint, sometimes those things are really heavy for me and they're
Yeah.
triggering for me.
Yeah.
And so until I can get to a place where I can be just calm with that, and
Mhm.
bring dead bones with me,
Yeah.
that's probably not the thing. And so now I think I'm just going to continue to allow God to lead me. I am I'm doing my book. I'm actually starting to write a second book. I
Okay.
don't know what it's going to be titled,
Okay.
but I journal a lot. So I had started journaling. I'm like, okay, Lord, this is good stuff coming out of here. So I don't know, but it is definitely faith based, because I don't want anybody to think, you look at me and I look like I'm well put together. I look like I don't have any problems, but it's important that I share even the not so pretty thing. You know what I'm saying? And that I have to work at it. I'm doing things. It's not like I'm sitting here like, Lord, just drop it down in my lap. No. And then one thing I forgot to mention, like I'm big into my fitness now. So
Okay.
I've been working out. And one thing I decided to do a bodybuilding competition. I'll be doing
What?
that next April.
Okay.
Yes. And so I'm giving myself like a year and a half to get myself together. But I work out like 3 to 4 days out of the week. I
Mhm.
run on Saturdays. We do 4 mile runs. Like, I am more active than I have ever been. And I will say that that is a good release, because
Yeah.
when I'm frustrated and I'm angry and I'm upset and I'm just pissed off about whatever, when I go to the gym and I'm working it out, the way the sweat is coming off, it's like
Mhm.
that's coming off. And so I'm able to just leave it right there in the gym,
Yeah.
and I'm not going to be at the office or somewhere, and then I become this combustible thing, and I
Right.
just lose everything. So the working out is definitely a good thing. And then even the gym that I go to, it is it's owned by a female, and so it's all women, and they do personal training and small group
Yeah.
training. And it's funny that everybody has very like minds. Like, everybody has a belief and a faith base. And so they are actually pouring into me. So they've become a new addition to my village. You know what I'm
Okay.
saying? We share the whole philosophy with fitness and wellness and eating, and, just wanting to better ourselves
Yeah.
as women. And I never, that's not what I thought when I first went there. I'm just thinking I'm going to work out because I need to do
Yeah.
something. And I was working out before my husband passed away. But that has changed me.
Yeah.
It's almost like I can see where God is strategically putting me in settings where it's something that I had thought about. I just hadn't moved on it. But now I'm here, and this feels really good. Like, this feels like home. And I feel like there is like pouring into my cup.
Yeah.
All of this is pouring into my cup, so that when it's full, that is going to play a role in me rediscovering me and who I am. And I'm open to whatever that may be.
Yeah.
I don't want to be um stuck on the fact, like I said, he died. I can't change that
Yeah.
part of it. You know what I'm saying? But I will say that his passing and everything, that it just how it turned my life inside down, upside down.
Mhm.
Um, Sometimes I think, you know what? Clearly it was a part of God's plan, but maybe it was necessary. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Because it caused me to step out in ways that I never would have consciously
Right.
done in the past. And I love myself then. I really love me now.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And even with everything that I'm going through, Steve was my biggest cheerleader.
Mhm.
Like, I would come out the bat with some stuff. crazy. But he was like, yeah, yeah, I think he was my hype man,
Yeah.
you know. And so when I'm doing these things, even though he's not here with me, I still hear him in my head being my hype man. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So I'm at peace with everything that I do. So yes, I would love for him to be here in his physical sense, to be here beside me as I walk this journey. But God had other plans,
Yeah.
and so I'll see him again.
Yeah.
I'll see when it's my time, then I'll see him again, and even that took some time because I was just like, I just don't make sense. Like, how he's supposed to know? Because
Right.
the old lady at church had told me, she was like, baby, you don't fulfilled your vows, to death do us part. And I'm like, excuse me, ma'am. Like, and she was like, I was like, yeah, that did not land right. And I was like, I didn't ask to be a widow. I'm not ready for that.
Right.
And when she came back and she broke it down because she was a widow too.
Hmm.
And I get that part of it, but it's like, I was like, she just shattered my, when I go to heaven, he gonna know I'm his wife. So I had to reach out to some pastors. I was like, we need to have a
Right.
private session. So they helped
Yeah.
get me together because I was broken.
Right.
But I will meet him again. And in hindsight, with everything that's going on in the world right now, he's definitely in a better place
Yeah.
because there's a lot of stuff that we're dealing with here, and a lot of things that I thought that I would never live through.
Yeah.
COVID, 9/11, just when I think we can't be outdone, we're
Not
outdone.
done. Yeah.
So he's definitely in a better place, and yeah, I believe he's in heaven, and I want to continue to live my life in such a way that when it's my time, I'll go to heaven as well.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yes.
Cam, if there's one thing that you would tell widows in the space that you're in, what would you tell a widow now?
One thing is, make sure that you are taking care of yourself. Make sure that you are a active participant in your life when your husband is alive, because I have been in different widow groups, and I am very fortunate. Yes, when he died, it changed everything. I had to figure it out. I didn't have to pay the mortgage and stuff. It wasn't that I couldn't, I just didn't have to. But now I got to do all of this stuff, right? So I got to figure it out. Well, guess what? It was just a matter of me sitting down with the paper and shifting and getting my mind right that I got to do this. Some women lost everything because they trusted that their husband was taking care of everything, and he was taking care of everything, but not really, so when he passed away, the everything just crumbled, and women have lost their homes, they've lost their cars, the life that they knew. So adding on to losing your husband, now you have all these other things that you're losing. So my thing is, the role of a wife has shifted. This is no longer June Cleaver. You gotta take a role and know, like, you ain't gotta pay the mortgage, but at least know that the mortgage is getting paid. Know how to pay your light bill, your water bill, or whatever.
Mhm.
You know, truly be a helpmate to your husband.
Yeah.
Let me say that. It's good. You want to be taken care of, but at least show up, because even when your husband's here, maybe he needs you to carry the load.
Yeah.
Maybe y'all need to shift a little bit. It shouldn't be all on one person, but just be very intentional about your marriage as well as yourself. And then if you find yourself being a widow, still be more in tune with yourself. Nobody can tell you how you feel. Nobody can dictate. Nobody can steer your emotions.
Mhm.
Allow yourself to be in that space. You don't have to be appeasing to someone else. One thing an old lady told me, she said, that was your husband. You do what you want to do. You do what feels right for you.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, he's gone. You got to sit in it. You know what I'm saying? Nobody knew Steve better than I knew him.
Mhm.
Not even his siblings that grew up with him. He left and went to the military at the age of 17. They knew brother, but the man that he had become, as a man, he was with
Yeah.
me. So nobody could tell me anything. Trust
Yeah.
yourself. That's the main thing. Trust yourself. Because even if you choose wrong, it's your choice. It's easier to choose wrong and you own it. But if you choose wrong and you be like such and such told, you beat yourself up, but such and such ain't got no dog in the
Yeah.
fight, you know? So yeah, just truly trust yourself. And I will say, get you some therapy. You know, we deal with a lot in life. But grief is this heavy thing. I wish I could say, you know what? You're going to grieve for 30 days and then you're going to be better. I'm not going to tell you that. That's not the case. It's not going to happen like that. It's not going to happen that way. You got to allow yourself to go through it. You got to allow yourself to go through it.
Yeah. And let's see, one last question, second to last question. If I
Okay.
were to ask you right now today, Cam, who are you today?
Mm, wow. I wasn't ready for that one. Who am I? I am a strong, resilient, intelligent mother, grandmother, author. I'm an inspiration to a lot of women. Yes, I am. Yeah, and I'm doing it. How
Yeah.
about that? I'm doing it. I'm doing it.
Yeah.
I'm doing it. So yes,
Yeah.
I'm me. I'm loving me. And if you had told me 24 months ago that I would see the light in my eyes
Mhm.
again, I would be like, mm-mm. Like I actually felt like I was in a black
Yeah.
hole. Not that I was going down, but it was just darkness. And no matter how bright it was
Mhm.
outside, I just couldn't see past the darkness, you
Yeah.
know. So definitely I'm stronger than what I thought I was. Um, and you know, I can do it. How about that? I can do it. I can do all things. I think that's the biggest thing. I can do all things, and there's no limit to um what I can do and what I can be. And God is not through with me
Yeah.
yet. He's not through with me yet. Um, and I'm open to receiving it. And whereas it was a place of I was afraid, there was fear, I'm not afraid
Yeah.
anymore. Not afraid
Yeah.
anymore. Yeah.
Well, I'm definitely looking forward to seeing some things from you, what kind of comes down the pipeline, another book.
Yes.
Um, yes.
Yes.
And
Yes.
seeing how
Yes.
you turn this pain into purpose, right? Turn
Absolutely.
this purpose into self-love, all the things
Yes.
that this life still has in store for you. I
Yes.
definitely will follow you and see how it
Thank
unfolds.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you. And I want to thank you for, giving me this opportunity. A friend of mine, she does a lot of podcasts. So she's an
Mhm.
entrepreneur and she sees like when I do my videos on social media. And she was like, I think you would be good doing this. She was like, join these groups. That's what she told me. She said, join these groups. People always putting stuff. I don't know if you can hear that, but people are always, asking for guests and different
Yeah.
stuff. And so I did. And
Yeah.
you were the first one.
Awesome.
Yeah, you were the first one. Sit down. You were the first one. And so so I'm like, I don't know, Lord. I don't know, but I receive all
Yeah.
of it and I'm going to embrace it. And I wasn't nervous about any of
Mhm.
this. again, it's just important to tell my
Yeah.
story, and it's important to be able to help another woman or
Yeah.
anybody, because it could be a man too that's dealing with grief, to know that there is the other side.
Yeah.
You will get to the other side. You know what I'm saying? I'm just a regular person, a real woman with a real life, and
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, I'm not exempt.
Yeah.
I'm not exempt. Nothing special, but you got to put in the
Yeah.
work. You got to put in the
Yeah. And just,
yeah.
from especially the last thing of what a couple of the last things that you had said, as far as what you're already doing of showing people the other side, as to where I appreciate that, where I needed to hear what you said was that you didn't know that the light would come back into your eyes. And
Yeah.
that's one of the things that I had been praying about the last couple of weeks, because I lost my father in June. And
So
so,
sorry to hear
thank you.
that.
And so I was like, my light is just was gone. And,
Mhm.
I wrote about it, and I was like, I don't know if I'm ever going to feel, you know, bright again or anything of that nature. So I thank you for, because it's always alignment, right? I thank you for sharing
Absolutely.
that, because that was a message for me. So you're already doing your thing, right? Like you said, you're doing
Yes.
it.
Yes.
You're doing it.
Yes. Yes. And I followed you on both of your things. So I was like, oh my God. And it's funny. What is is it chakra?
Chakra.
What is that? Let me tell you. I was seeing Lord, what is she? I'm gonna say fortune
Yeah.
teller, but that is not what it is. But I was seeing her, this is like a year
Mhm.
ago, and I was looking at books, and that book came up, and that came up because I was doing yoga.
Mhm.
And so that's why I'm like, when I saw that, I was like, okay,
Yeah.
Lord, okay. So when I have little bitty signs like that, it's like, okay, you definitely going in the
Yeah.
right direction.
Alignment.
Yeah.
Alignment, alignment.
Hmm.
All right. Well,
Yes,
Cam, thank
yes,
you
yes.
so much for sitting in here and trusting
You're
me in this
welcome.
space, and telling us your story, and just being a kind soul, and the willingness to express your rawness and where you are and where you know that you're going, and just the willingness to
Yes,
create space for it to work out in its own way. That's important.
yes,
Yeah.
ma'am.
So I
Yes,
thank you for
yes, yes.
coming into the shadow box. Everyone else, thank you for coming into the shadow box with us, and joining in this conversation with Cam Golden. All of her information and how to get her book and to kind of follow her, all her information will be under her biography in the podcast, under the podcast. And until next time, namaste.